Hello there. Welcome to Warframe. Warframe is most certainly the game of all time. Although the game has gone so far down the rabbit hole, it can now legally be considered a gooner game. It could also be considered one of the most religiously and mythologically diverse games on the market. Warframe is a free-to-play, third-person looter shooter, and there is much emphasis on the grind. It's known famously for being one of the grindiest games out there, alongside games such as Destiny 2, RuneScape, and Path of Exile. And with the release of a whole new region in the fall 2025 update, it's safe to say it's only going to get worse. So, while the rabbit hole is dug deeper, let's take a step back and analyze what we already have. With so many characters and factions, Warframe most certainly has taken inspiration from religion and mythology to create some of these traits. In this video, I will be discussing 3 of Warframe's factions, and the playable cast of characters known as Warframes. Oh, come on, that was a funny joke! Get out! In order to understand the Grineer, the Corpus, and the Warframes better, we have to understand the Orokin first, as their existence is the sole reason why Warframe, the game, even exists. The Orokin are one of the most mysterious factions in Warframe. Even today, much is still to be learned about them. There's a lot of fog when discussing this faction, and for good reason. Digital Extremes, the creators of Warframe, made it a goal to keep the Orokin as mysterious as possible, as learning their secrets is what drives the Grineer, the Corpus, and the Tenno to fight each other and cause conflict. Even with this shrouded history, however, what we do know about the Orokin is that they are possibly one of, if not beaten by the Warframes, the most diversely inspired factions in the game. Let's start with their design. The Orokin are plated in lots of gold trims and gold lining, along with white for color harmony. It's essentially their way of showing a sort of regal essence, a way of showing their superiority to the other factions. This gold and white foundation can be found in both Hinduism and Buddhism. In Hinduism culture, the color white is often symbolized as purity, cleanliness, peace, and knowledge. It is often seen with gods of knowledge such as Saraswati, and is linked to Sattva-guna, one of the 3 fundamental qualities or gunas in Hindu philosophy. Gold, not necessarily the color, but the metal, is often symbolized as prosperity, divinity, and auspiciousness. It is often seen in a lot of depictions of the gods as a way to show their divinity, and it is also seen as a sign of wealth, linked to the goddess Lakshmi. In Buddhism culture, white is often seen as purity and transcendence, and in Tibetan Buddhism, wisdom and knowledge. It is used as a way to represent the Buddha reaching enlightenment. Gold is often seen as enlightenment and perfection, and, like Hinduism, wealth. Now, if you want more of a physical comparison, the gold and white trims of the Orokin structures are akin to that of the decoration of the Versailles at the Vatican. Yes, the Grineer are highly joked about to be influenced by USSR traits. They're militaristic, focusing heavily on service to the queens. They look similar to USSR era tech. They have fashions that were designed from video games like Halo and Warhammer 40k. But their looks don't really have any religious or mythological inspirations, so we're going to go straight to their culture. As a Grineer, you are made to serve the queens, all the way down to your genetics. This trait of the faction actually has influence from traditions in Islam and Hinduism. In Islamic religion, Fitra suggests that humans are born in a natural state of faithfulness, and in Hindu religion, Dharma implies one's social role is divinely fixed by birth, only to be changed in reincarnation. The Grineer, as mentioned earlier, are highly militaristic, taking pride in their militia power and sheer numbers. Even this part of the Grineer is influenced, as it shares characteristics with the Christian Crusades. Now, sometimes the Grineer genetically modify their own soldiers upon birth. turning them into frenzied soldiers called the ghouls. On rare occasion, these ghouls would rise up against their masters, showing how hard it is to control them. This they share with Norse berserkers, also frenzied warriors who entered a berserk state called Berserker Gang, where they go wild and become uncontrollable. If you're resistant to your genetic loyalty or indoctrination, you are labeled a heretic, much like Warhammer 40k. You're essentially excommunicated from the Grineer, sometimes even hunted down and killed like a witch trial. Now, there isn't much left to talk about with the Grineer. This faction, while rich in its lore, essentially boils down to two traits: serve your queen and die for your queen. In turn, this doesn't give much leeway to discuss religious or mythological influences or interactions. Now let's move on to... As one of the factions with the richest lore, the Corpus are no stranger to being riddled with religious and mythological influence. Yet, even with digging into the history of the Corpus, the community seems to be slightly divided on which direction to take it. Let's first take a look at what the community says. There are some people in the community of Warframe who lean more heavily into the idea of capitalism as the inspiration for the Corpus. They aren't necessarily wrong here, as they do take inspiration from real-world capitalism. The Corpus literally worship profit like it's the spiritual path to success, mirroring late-stage capitalism and its tendency to treat the market as sacred, where money determines morality and success. The Corpus's main founder, Parvos Granum, is idolized as the man who brought salvation to their kind through commerce and wealth. And when he's resurrected through the Granum Void via golden tokens, it mimics the theme of capitalism as resurrection through wealth. There are some people in the community of Warframe who lean more heavily into the idea of Scientology as the inspiration for the Corpus. They too aren't necessarily wrong here, as while there isn't a one-to-one parody of Corpus to Scientology, certain factors of each topic line up eerily well. They both worship a charismatic founder. The Corpus worship Parvos Granum, and Scientology worships Ron Hubbard. They both follow a doctrine of profit as salvation. Scientology follows a path of spiritual advancement via paid courses. They both cut off defectors. The Corpus treat them as heretics, and Scientology declares them suppressive persons and cuts them off entirely. While these connections in itself aren't flawed or based on speculation, they aren't necessarily the only answer for the Corpus. There are many other comparisons you can make with the Corpus. To save on time, I'll quickly go through some of the connections that I personally found. Corpus architecture mixes futuristic and minimalistic design with religious breaks in between. On some of the common map layouts for Corpus cruise ships, you can find statues of a giant golden hand with a panel in front of it. This is a shrine to Parvos Granum, with the golden hand representing his artificial hand. These can be recalled to Christian cathedrals, Islamic mosques, or Hindu temple carvings. Think of Corpus design as a corporate megachurch. It's built to look like a business hall, but there are religious designs within them, for instance the shrines to Parvos Granum. Parvos Granum himself takes inspiration from Muhammad in the voice of God. During the era where Granum's people were slaves to the Orokin, he heard a voice whisper to him, telling him to seek desire. Break free from the chains of captivity and free your people. Sitting idly kills the common man. Parvos listened to these whispers from the whisper. I swear on my life I'm not trying to repeat the Warframe joke here, it's actually just called the whisper. Anyways, Parvos listened to the whisper and managed to win against the oppressive Orokin rule. As he tried to replace the farm his people had worked hard on making with a giant city, his brother doubted him. It didn't matter in the end, as Parvos was successful in making a fortune and spreading it down to his people, thus creating the faction known as the Corpus. Like I said, it takes inspiration from the story of Muhammad receiving the voice of God, but this inspiration is placed in another inspiration, which is, once again, slavery. Man, the Orokin really liked having slaves. A quick description to the term Warframes. These are humans that were completely ripped of their consciousness to be made into living armor suits equipped with abilities for the Tenno to use in the fight for the Origin system. Let's go through some of the Warframes and talk about parts of their design that are inspired by religious and mythological inspirations.
Wukong and Nezha, Warframes based on the Chinese deities of the same name, with the abilities inspired by them as well. Atlas, the name comes from the Titan Atlas who held up the sky. His ability Petrify is a tribute to Gorgon Medusa that killed the Titan. Ivara, her Artemis bow is named after the Greek goddess of archery Artemis. Ivara's name is derived from Ivar, in Old Norse meaning a tree warrior. Korra. Her name likely comes from the Greek goddess Korra, aka Persephone. Nyx. Her name comes from the Greek goddess of the night, Nyx. Garuda. Named after Vishnu's legendary bird mount. Banshee. Named after the Irish mythological creature of the same name. Her abilities are based on said creature's ability to wail loudly if someone's about to die. Hildred is named after the Valkyrie Hildir. Loki is named after the god of trickery.
Now, this is nowhere near the whole list of warframes in the game. As of right now, there is a total of 61 warframes in the game. Not all of them are related to religion or mythology, but as time goes on, there will be more warframes made to reference it. This was a long ride, and I apologize for scrambling your brain up. Warframe is an ever-changing game with its characters to its plotline. No two versions of Warframe are ever really the same. Yet, even as it changes, it still shows us that religion in video games could be intertwined, if not a direct part of the story. Warframe shows us that religion and mythology, and yes, politics too, can inspire such immersive and creative world building, and create one of the longest standing games to date. Warframe was released in 2013. So with this, what's your next grind, Tenno?
Driving in my car right after a beer.